to round 20 of the Performance Racing League. This is the Premier Tier, this is the cream of the crop, and today we are in the wonderful country of Mexico. Alongside me, I've got Tambar. How are you doing today, Tambar?
I'm doing great.
You doing
as always?
As always, glad to hear it.
Yeah.
My name is Cheryl Shaft. I forgot to introduce myself. What a terrible job I'm doing at broadcasting. But here we go. We are about 4 or 5 minutes into qualifying already, so only a few laps on the board. These guys still on their way to putting the first lap down. We'll probably start to focus on the qualifying towards the end of the session as things really start to heat up. But before that, a few bits of admin. Firstly, beautiful sunny day today for the qualifying. We have got word, however, it is going to be a very wet and thunderous race. So lots of excitement on board and lots of potential for carnage, you could say, which should be good. We also have, I believe, Tambar, an update on the standings as it currently stands. And from what I understand, at least in the constructors, McLaren seem to have quite a lead into this race.
Yeah, so McLaren are leading with around 400 points, surpassing the 1,100 points with 2 races to go. Aston Martin in second, and then Mercedes in third. We got Williams close behind Mercedes, and then Red Bull close behind there again. Then we got a bit of a gap to Alpine in sixth, and Alfa Romeo closing behind in seventh. Then we got Haas in 8th, Ferrari and AlphaTauri in 9th and 10th.
AlphaTauri in 10th, did you say?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not great.
Nah, it's not great.
Just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, well, Ferraris aren't doing great either. They're around 30 points ahead of AlphaTauri, and that's disgraceful. So yeah, Ferrari should be a big team, and they're not doing great.
Yeah, so it really is a battle between Darluto and Super Haman, between AlphaTauri and Ferrari, of who can not finish last in Premier Tier Constructors this year.
Yeah.
And well, with only 2 more races after this to go, this could be a very, very important race for the Constructors. In terms of the drivers, though, how are we looking at the top of the standings? What's our sort of top 5 drivers, and how far are they from each other today?
Today we got Jer with a pretty solid lead in first place with around 60 points, down to Bass in second. And then we got Adrian third with 511 points, and Fruitful with 490. And in fifth place we got Stein with 440 points. So they're all inside like 200 points.
Yes, so with, 4 of those 5 are racing today. We do have Adri, unfortunately, unable to race. I believe we have Rusty Orkan stepping into the Red Bull for him. But the other 4 are racing today, both the McLarens. We've got Bass in the Aston Martin, and we've got Stein in the Mercedes. Stein yet to put a lap in, but the other 3 are currently leading the proceedings in terms of qualifying. So yeah, all set to be, hopefully, a very challenging and technical race with the rain, but hopefully a very exciting one.
Yeah. I think... no, never mind.
Cool. Nice. We do, I believe, have Adri, though. Speaking of the current missing title challenger, we do have him watching today. So shout out to you, Adri. How are you doing? Hope you're all good. And fingers crossed for your Red Bull team. Grack and Rusty will try and bring some good points for you. We've also got Suzuki, who I believe will be commentating Tier 2 later today, is in the chat. Shout out to you. Any early predictions, hit us up. I might give you a shout out. But for you, Tambar, what are you feeling today, especially in the rain? Something that we don't see hugely often, so definitely a different set of challenges. But who are you feeling to be the main threats and the main interests to keep an eye on?
You know, it's always hard to predict people in the rain because it's always to fuck up and mess up and and like throw the car in the wall or something. But I'm not sure who will win because I feel like it's pretty open in the rain. But maybe we can have some kind of undercards or underdogs in the likes of Boas, who has shown some great pace in the practice races and in some practice sessions earlier on this day. And I think also, as mentioned before, T-Mike is kind of underdog in this type of circumstance.
Yeah, definitely. The rain always gives opportunities for those who sometimes struggle on just pure pace, gives them the opportunity. I think also with Mexico, especially in Sector 2, the amount of fast corners in the race, it's going to be so easy to lose the rear end of the car, to crash out. You know, we're going to get some DNFs today. We're going to get some spins today. So yeah, definitely some of those underdogs can really, if they can keep it all together, can really cash in and hopefully get a good haul of points for their team. So yeah, so we'll just start to look at the qualifying now. We've got just under 8 minutes left to go in the session. As it stands, top three as we'd expect up there. Bass with a huge lead. I mean, almost half a second lead from Jer in P2, Fruitful in P3. Steinmine still to put a lap in, which is interesting. Is also worth noting with the rain going to be coming in from the start of the race. No real necessity to try any other strategies there. These guys will likely put all the softs on. And the other last bit of admin, as we've just seen pop on there, Super Hammond does have a qualifying ban, so he will be starting from the back of the grid today. But all that said and done, Tambar, to bring you back in again.
Yeah.
With the current qualifying standards at the moment, are we expecting any 113s, do you think? How many drivers are we expecting in the 114s? What sort of spreading of times do you think we'll be having towards the end today?
I mean, we're in Premiere, so I kind of expect 99% of the times to be below the 116s, apart from Rusty, because, I mean, he's tier 2, and he's doing a great job by joining all these races, but I'm not expecting big things from him today. Either way, I think we will see one guy in the 13s, and that is the boy on bowl, Mr. Bass. He has a absolutely disgusting time trial time of a 113.6 or something, and he's like 67th in the world. So yeah, and there we go.
There we go.
So,
Right on cue.
Yeah, so I think top 10 will probably be inside the 14s, maybe or maybe 12 or something. But yeah, most of them will be in the 14s.
Interesting, and I mean, yeah, as you were talking there, just the commented on Bassi into the 114.0. He has got time for another lap, so we'll be trying to get into the 113s. But yeah, we also had current day in the Aston Martin breaking into the 114s with 114.9, putting himself third. But just a huge gap in terms of time from Vaz to the rest of these drivers who are just starting to pull into the pits now, yeah. So we should hopefully be preparing ourselves for a final onslaught of times from these guys. Yeah, we do also, interestingly, with the constructors, current day currently putting himself third is super important for that constructors fight, because every car in between Jet and Fruitful just means less points for that McLaren team, who will be trying to wrap up the constructors as quickly as they possibly can. In terms of the battle, do you think we'll be seeing potentially two McLarens on the podium? Do you feel like there'll be some teamwork there and it'll work together, or at this stage is it going to be very much an individualistic kind of every driver for themselves, not really worrying too much about their teammates?
I mean, I think McLaren already have basically wrapped up the constructors at this moment, but I think I don't think they'll be very friendly to each other in this race. I mean, they're fighting for individual positions in the driver standings, and if it was me, I wouldn't like let someone by just because they're my teammate at this point in the season.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it will say a lot about the relationship the drivers have had throughout the season as to whether we do see any team orders today.
Yeah. Depends on the pace as well.
Yes. If you've got one person particularly quick and someone not, then I'm probably more likely to see it there. Shout out to Mr. Hex in the chat. Hello to you. Got some predictions coming through as well. Adri predicting himself to win, which I have to admit, Adri, I will say that's impossible, but you've done some incredible things in this car, so I'm not going to put anything past you.
Yeah, and I think the odds are pretty high. Let's put $1 and see what happens, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Right, we'll jump on board with some of these guys. So we'll jump first on board with Grak, we'll jump on board T-Mike. I believe he is the first one on the lap. T-Mike in the Haas currently in 10th position. I might get you to commentate one of these laps coming up soon, Tambar, so keep an eye. But Tambar coming through the second sector now. Very technical, this track, other than that long straight. Where do you think the lap times are going to be won and lost for these drivers? Where do you feel like there is most potential to get an advantage?
I think there's particularly two zones on this track where you can gain a lot of time and lose a lot of time. And it's most importantly the S's, the section T-Mike just drove, and the first sector, the 3 corners in the start of the lap. You have to kind of cut them perfectly to get a decent time.
Yes, and especially that first turn, so much space in there as well. It's very easy to go in a bit deep and completely ruin that first sector. But looking at the track times now, so Team Mike doesn't unfortunately improve. Grak coming through does improve. Grak moves up into 3rd position with a 1:14.8, a great lap time there.
I think Sapnot just retired.
He does just retire, interestingly, so he is stuck now. Steinmeier moves up to 4th, which I'm sure is good, but I'm sure he probably would have wanted more from that. We'll have a look as, is that Jet or McLaren's on an outlap now. We've got an Alfa Romeo coming through, looks like Boaz, currently sitting in 7th, coming through the stadium. Don't think he's improving at the moment, but coming through his 3rd sector, we'll see if he can move into the 1:14s. Coming through the final corner, he doesn't, but might be setting himself up for another lap. McLaren's also starting. There's Current Day, has spun. He was ahead, was improving, sorry. So that is not good news for him. But we'll jump on board with Jer, who's now coming into turn 1. Tambar, I'm going to remove all the infographics from the screen. Why don't you take us through Jer's lap?
Yeah, so Jer just did a pretty decent first sector. Let's see if it improves. He does, and now into this tight left-hander and then the right-hander. Important to not cut all the curb on the inside because it cannot settle the car. Also on these corners, doing the double apex pretty good there. Now, important to cut a bit of these curbs. Maybe it's a bit wide on the end of that one, and yeah, that's the lap. He kind of went a bit wide there and just lost.
Yes.
You have to be like on point in every corner to make the section.
And don't think he'll have time to go again. He might have time. He's going to need to push it. But we'll leave him for now. We'll look like Bass has invalidated. Grak is not improving. Is Jer going to make it? He's not. So that's his time done. We'll look at Steinmeier coming through now into the 2nd sector. He is currently up in his 1st sector, yeah.
Well, that looked like invalidation, but it isn't. Yeah, it cuts that one pretty nicely, better than Joe did. Out into this one. Yeah, pretty tight into the S there. Cuts the right ones. Now into the tight right-hander, down to 4th or 3rd, yeah. And then just the exit curb. Now tight into this hairpin. Try to cut the curb over there, and now tight into this last right-hander and keep it tight over the line. Not driving to the pit lane, no!
Oh, that's an invalidation. That is not what he would have wanted to see. And have we got anyone crossing the line here?
Fruitful?
Fruitful.
Nice.
No, he's invalid and he slams into the wall. I'm not sure why that is.
Kelter, no, is in the bits. Levy's in the bits.
I think that might
Yeah,
be
that's it.
all done. Wow. So those final lap times, I don't think many people improved. I mean, Grack jumped through with a ridiculous time, moved himself into P3, but all the front runners making those mistakes. No one able to cash in. Current day crossing the line. He
Yeah, my
doesn't.
prediction was horribly wrong.
Yes. Well, hopefully your race prediction, when we get that in a second, will make up for it. But to be honest, I don't think anyone would have predicted all of the front runners to not improve there. And the final grid is very similar to the grid at the end of the second runs. So yeah, very interesting and completely different ball game now as we go into a wet race in a few moments. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that then, Tambar? Was you've obviously said that's not gone towards your prediction, but do you think that's going to set any sort of precedence going into the race with these drivers making that many invalidations and that many mistakes and not able to take full advantage?
Well, I mean, the track is already known for like giving a lot of penalties because it's easy to cut certain parts of this track, and it kind of shows with all the invalidations. But like, I mean, in the wet, it should maybe be a bit easier to keep within the track limits, but at the same time, you should maybe be a bit difficult to do it as well because you may slide a bit wide or may lose the car and kind of correct into a track limit. So yeah, probably some penalties to see in the race.
Yes. I imagine, yeah, the penalties are probably going to be jumping up and be very high towards the end of the race if the practice races yesterday were anything to go by.
Yeah, I think Darludo is not retiring. He joined a bit late and then he still driving. Well, he's up on his time at least.
Well, let's have a look.
Don't know if it's legal. Well, he did improve, but
yeah, hasn't gone.
Improve?
Oh, he has improved, and he's still driving. I'm not sure what's going on here.
I think he should retire because he joined like middle of the quali or something. But yeah,
Interesting. I'm not sure either. We'll hopefully get an update soon in terms of what's happening with these guys. And yeah, we're getting some chat that it's some sort of glitch going on. I mean, and I believe that is over now.
yeah, he retired.
So,
thank you, Darludo, for being a man of the people.
a man of the people. Well, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
That's qualifying sorted. Tamba, why don't you take us through the grid?
Yeah, so we got Bass on pole with a 14.0. Then we got Jer and Greg running up the top three. We got Steinmine, current day, Callum Robb, next three. Then we got Boaz, Fruitful, Capella, and Calcis. We got T-Mac in 11th, Calturl in 12th, Jesse and B&B Levy in 14th. Then I have to scroll a bit. And then we got Darludo in 15th, Bronco in 16th, Rusty in 17th, and Superman with the qualifying starting last. Oh yeah.
So, perfect timing. As soon as you jump through for the screen. So, so the next thing, I guess, is important to see is just how heavy this rain is going to be for these drivers. We know there's going to be rain. We know it's got a very strong potential to last the whole race. But is this an intermediate wetness or a full wet tyre sort of weather? Oof.
That's full.
That is a clear an answer as we could have ever hoped to get. That is lots of puddles. Hopefully no aquaplaning. Yeah. real challenge. But you know, this is Premier Tier. This is the top drivers here at PRL. If anyone can take it, these guys can. But for those who maybe are less aware about the differences, Tambar, when it comes to racing in the wet as opposed to the dry, what sort of differences does the driver need to be aware of when it comes to how they control the car and how they attack corners?
Well, like rain is what we call the great equalizer because everyone is slow in the rain because rain is just slow. Mainly because the car understeers a lot and the traction is pretty hard to find in, especially in these conditions with the full wet tire. And basically you have to manage the throttle and probably gear up if you're using manual gears to a higher gear to get the traction you want. And the revs are going to be pretty low as well. So it's pretty hard to overtake in a corner because the car kind of understeers and it's pretty hard to keep it side by side in the SS section, for example. So most of the overtakes will probably be on the straight.
Yes, that will definitely be interesting, as you're saying about kind of the understeer and the slowness through the corners. With the straight being so long, drivers needing to take full advantage of it, it'll be interesting to see the patience they have through much more the technical areas and whether we get any crazy dive bombs, anyone getting a bit impatient and just trying to force a move that isn't there. But with that said and done, drivers have had their 2 minutes. Should be going into the formation lap coming up now, where drivers will try to heat up their tyres. None more so of importance than on a day like today in what I imagine to be very humid and wet conditions. Here we go. So, as they come through, again, Tambar hopefully we'll have a clean start, but as always, if I can get you to keep an eye on the back of the grid as we start this race and just give us a shout for any incidents.
Yeah, gotta keep an eye on the AlphaTauri, you know. So.
Yes, the AlphaTauri right at the back of the grid. Yeah, that'll be useful.
We've got a disqualification.
We've got a bit of, probably a bit of contact from the drivers. So, yeah, there are going to be some cold tyres on that Alpine and that Mercedes. But
that may cause some carnage.
And we'll jump on board.
For carnage?
No, we like clean driving here. I guess we like carnage if it's as a result of. We don't like dirty driving. Let's just say no one likes dirty driving. I've just jumped on board. We're just jumping on board with Bass, just out of interest. I mean, curiosity for myself more than anyone. Of, I guess, a masterclass in how you warm up with tires, wet tires, in the rain. Just watching him going up the gears. I always find that quite interesting. Moving side to side. The lovely sight of drivers back and forth down the long straight. We love to see it.
I think the other thing is just to warm up the engine. I think.
Yeah, always good to go through all the gears before you get to the start straight. As we see Bass now trying to.
What are you doing?
Daluto is way off. He must have spun. I assume Daluto must have spun.
Yeah, Boas spun as well. He's in the back.
Yeah, cool. So the drivers all close together, and and here we go. So we're going to jump on board with Grak initially. See if there's who gets a good start on this long straight. But with all that said and done, we should be ready to go very soon here. Round 20, Premier Tier, Performance Racing League in Mexico. Formation laps done. These drivers are done. 5 lights are on the screen. And away we go. Daluto already getting a jump start. Not good news for the AlphaTauri. I'm sure Tambar, you are not loving that. He's going to get drive through straight away. But in terms of the start, it looks like Grak is having some competition from Steinmeier, who's had a great start. Jer also having a great start. Already ahead of Bass before we even get into Sector 1. But here's where these drivers are going to go tight. Bass goes down the inside on Jer. And these drivers going 2 wide, sometimes 3 wide into sector 1 through turns 1, 2, 3, and 4, but looks relatively clean. Haven't had any spinners just yet. And looking through that first sector, we've got Jen in first place. We have got a spinner. Who is it, Tamba?
Levy, B&B Levy just spun on the exit of turn 3, I think.
Oh, and it looks like there's contact there between Grak and Bass, which is huge for the title. And that means now that we've got Jer in first, Stein in second, Sir Capelot moves up 6 positions from the start into 3rd position, Calirob into 4th, Current Day holding his position into 5th. But that is huge for the title. Yeah, Bass now down into 16th position, has it all to do today, which is not good news for him. Grak might have a bit of damage as he gets overtaken by BNB Levy there in last.
Yeah, it looks like a bent template.
Be interesting to see if he does go into the pits there, yeah. Pit stop strategy popping up. I mean, it is in the wet. These drivers do not have to pit for a new combine if they do not want to. Be interesting to see what sort of wear you get on the tyres. Not the most intensive track on the calendar, so there is a potential these drivers might try and reach the end, but realistically, we will be expecting a 1-stop from these guys, assuming the weather doesn't improve at all.
Yeah, Greg's in the pits. So he probably has some damage.
Yes. Oh, and that is Fruitful being attacked by Current Day. Current Day. I'm sorry. I take that the other way around. That is Fruitful attacking Current Day and getting the move done. A very nice move there around the outside of turn 1. Keeps it on the inside for turn 2 and then around the outside of turn 3. Current Day now trying to fight back, but doesn't quite have the pace to get it done. And interestingly, we're already seeing a gap forming between the front 2, Jer and Steinwein, and 3rd place Sir Capelot. So interesting to see if those two can pull away from the pack. But relatively clean start, a lot of position changes. Do you think any of these drivers are going to need to change their strategy as a result of their start?
Like, the problem with the rain is if you don't have to pit, the guys at the back are pretty messed in terms of getting up the grid. Because we witnessed last time Bass just absolutely driving the wheels of the car and ending up like P4 or something. Well, maybe he spent a thought because he can maybe pit earlier and get an advantage in that type of manner. If they can keep the full wets for the whole race.
Oh,
Current Day.
Oh, is that oh, it's been a crash. You can see it on the start straight, and that is a virtual safety car. Yeah, Current Day.
He's DNF'd.
He has DNF'd.
Well, that's great for Bass.
It is great for Bass. Gets the chip pit stop. Superman getting a penalty.
Superman.
And wow, so these drivers now are going to need to pull back. We will just keep an eye on the penalties, as I imagine those are going to come thick and fast from these drivers. Yeah. But virtual safety car coming in, lap 3 of what is a very long Grand Prix. I mean, 36 laps is a real test of your mental stamina. Current Day leading the session, understandably, now that he is out of the race, unfortunately. Not a great start for the Aston Martins, it must be said, today. Bass down in 16th, Current Day already finished and retired in 18th. But yeah, your thoughts so far then, Tambar? Very interesting start, not the one that many people would have predicted.
Yeah, I was like, if we had a prediction at the start of the race, I would have predicted Greg, just because I would have done well to end up on the podium. But I mean, the guy just have insane bad luck. I don't know what happened, but he hasn't had the best of luck.
No, not been his season this season. As it looks like we'll keep an eye on Fruitful here, getting the closing speed on Calirob. Has got closing speed, might go down the inside here, tries to brake later, I should say. Calirob unfortunately doesn't have the grip to fight back and will have to concede, and that is Fruitful up to 4th. Superman also improving, overtakes Bronco, now moves up to 11th, and interestingly, not going to be a huge thing at the moment, but just thinking ahead towards the end of the race, Jer has already got a 3-second penalty. So it'd be interesting to see whether that does come back to bite him. I mean, most of these drivers will be getting penalties most likely, again, if the practice races yesterday are anything to go by. But whether that one in particular, those 3 seconds, cause a change, we will see. We'll keep a pin on that, and we might be referencing that in 32 laps time. But all that aside, we come through to the start of lap 6. Jer coming through the final corner. All of these drivers now staying roughly a second behind. No DRS for these drivers to use in the rain. Yeah, Tambar, let me ask you this then. From a driver's perspective, as someone who's currently P2 in Tier 1, most likely set for a promotion to this very tier next season. A tentative and preemptive congratulations on that, assuming it goes through. With the lack of DRS, no worries. With the lack of DRS for these drivers to use, what about your strategy when it comes to overtakes? Do you treat them any differently? Do you have a different kind of plan of action? Is there something you would do to force an overtake in the rain that you wouldn't do in the dry?
Well, I mean, from my perspective, I would probably just stay behind and kind of want the other driver to make a mistake and kind of capitalize, as Caliber does here, tries to do. But like maybe fake an overtake and make the other one go wide, and just focus on the exits mainly.
It's an interesting point, actually. Yeah, I guess you have a bit more time to react to things in the wet, because you generally go a bit slower. But if you do manage to fake someone out, they kind of have to commit to that.
Yeah.
To that direction change.
And it's pretty easy to lock up as well. So.
Very true. Very true. Hopefully we'll see some creative overtakes today. That's always a worry you can get in the rain, is that because people are so concerned about spinning, you don't get any attempts to overtake. But hopefully we might have one here, as Cali Rob is catching very quickly to Fruitful on the home straight. Going to turn 1, Fruitful tries to cover the inside. Cali Rob not wanting to dive, probably a smart move in the long run. Instead looks to try and set himself up coming out of turn 3. Battle of who gets a better exit. Unfortunately, on this occasion, Fruitful is the one that gets the better exit. Cali Rob is closing, but will not close enough to get the move done, and stays in 5th position. We've got Superman moving down the outside now. Jesse tries to brake a bit later. Will have the outside line. Doesn't unfortunately have the grip to keep himself in line with Jesse, and Jesse holds on to P10. I fear that might become a common occurrence. We'll keep on board with Cali Rob though, as he is keeping it relatively close to Fruitful. I mean, these drivers just starting to filter back a little bit now and fall back. Oh, Cowses is getting close to Cowturl. Moves down the outside. Cowturl, and he fights through. Cowturl falls back, and Cowses keeps the position and moves up to 6th. I was just about to say, I was worried that we weren't going to get many overtakes for the next few laps, but Cowses comes true.
Yeah, true. And it's Cowses did pretty great there, but he's probably going to lose the position. But as I mentioned before, the rain is kind of hard on the traction part, and that's why the outside isn't the greatest place to overtake, because you kind of run out of track, because you have... he almost spun it. You kind of run out of track because it's so easy to like overshoot the corner on the inside, so you kind of want the inside if you're going for a move, in many of these corners at least.
Definitely, and I guess it's almost a situation where overshooting corners, understeering, oversteering, losing the rear end, all of those mistakes are kind of exaggerated by the conditions. As, speaking of mistakes, Rusty unfortunately spinning down in 14th will lose a couple of positions now and drops back to 16th. Well, I say not a good day for Aston Martin, not a good day for Red Bull either. Currently sitting at 16th, 17th. Adri, if you're watching, probably look away now. This is not looking good for you.
Yeah, he's probably looked away for a few laps at least.
Hopefully he's turned it off. Yeah.
Yeah, just turn it off after box one.
Yeah, just wait till next week, and hopefully when you're back then, and you can try and make up for it. In terms of a quick weather update, looks like the weather is going to start easing in about an in-race hour from now, which, unless we get 2 or 3 safety cars, I do not think is going to make any impact on this race. So we are looking to be like we're set for a full wet the entire race, which is going to be very technically demanding for these guys. I mean, excluding the obvious Monaco, which everyone would say, is there any race, Tambar, that the idea of doing it in the wet would give you nightmares?
Probably Singapore.
Ooh.
I mean, like the braking zones in Singapore and the wet just gives me nightmares.
That's a great show. I think I'd have to feign sickness and not do that race. Just leave the lobby straight away if I saw it wet.
Yeah, and Canada as well. Just don't like the track generally, and with the wet, just feel like.
Is that some foreshadowing? I mean, we're at Canada next week.
All the chicanes.
Too many chicanes. I mean, to be fair, Mexico could be the sort of track that you would hate to see in the rain, as there are so many slow corners, tight corners, fast corners. It's a real technically demanding track, but I don't know, it's just something about it feels quite fun. I don't know, it might just be me.
Yeah, like the track has a lot of different corners, and some of them are fast, and some of them are technical, and some of them are like hairpins. Kind of a pretty cool track to drive.
Well, I guess that's a good inverse question for you then. Of all the tracks on the calendar, which one would you most like to do wet?
I don't like wet.
but if you had to pick one, if I told you you have to do a wet Grand Prix, but you can choose any track, which one would you go for?
Probably France, just because there's a lot of runoff.
Oh, that's a very good shout.
And I have driven France in the rain before, and it wasn't that bad. So, yeah. Or maybe Austria. One of those.
I mean, everyone loves Austria, surely.
Yeah.
If I meet someone that says they don't like the Red Bull Ring, I don't trust them as a person. Oh.
Yeah, like, especially racing-wise.
Calturl has spun. Not good news for him. He was sitting in 5th position, but that is him now down into 12th and off of the pack, which he is not going to enjoy, which means everyone from Cows's down to Bronco shuffles up a position. Sorry, Tamba, you were saying?
Oh yeah, I was saying just Austria has a good track of racing-wise. Like, people may not like it in time trial because it's so hard to like find time. Because there's it's 10 corners or something, so it's kind of hard to find time because there's a lot less corners to find time in. Racing-wise, it's a pretty good track too. It's one of the best tracks to race on.
It is indeed, and looks like we've got some people in the chat. Jesper agreeing, rain in Monaco. Interestingly, looking like it's a popular one. Oscar, Oscar, you did absolutely dominate. I think you lapped 2nd place, didn't you, when we did a wet race in Monaco?
Yeah,
so
lapped everyone.
If anyone can advocate for a wet Monaco race, it's Oscar. Interesting. I mean, Monaco is always one of those cliched races that people don't look forward to, but I think it's probably the only race where people, it seems, from what I can see, are saying they prefer a wet race over a dry race. Except for Suzuki, who hates Monaco wet. Well, I think, to be fair, Suzuki, I think you hate Monaco dry as well. If there's anything you don't like, it's a street track where you have no runoff to drive off into. So, I understand that. We'll have a look now. Fruitful coming through the final corner as Baz is making his way up the grid, moves up into 12th position, but still 10 seconds off the pack. Still a lot of work to do for him. Of that front pack though, Fruitful the closest, not able to catch up enough and make it count. Well, I mean, it's moving on then from the wet Grand Prix. If we're thinking about tyre strategy, mentioned before that we're likely going to be seeing a one-stop from these guys, assuming to the end. Is there any opportunity for undercuts, overcuts, with the conditions not really changing? The tyres, you know, you're not going from soft to medium or medium to hard or anything else. Do you have in your mind, if you're in this situation, an attempt to utilise the pit stop to gain a big advantage?
I mean, I wouldn't go for an overcut, like in any circumstance, because I feel like you just can't get past, even if you're on better tires. But I think there's a time for the undercut, but I don't think there will be any time for inters in that race. So probably just try and make it to a 3-lap undercut and see what we can do.
So are we likely going to be seeing these guys, do you think, roughly pitting the same sort of laps, or do you think we're going to be seeing any creative strategies going on here?
Well, like if you're stuck behind someone, you may just like pit early, or if you're leading, you may just go long and just hope that you can kind of capitalize on the very new tires, or maybe hope that it gets inters at the very end and just gain time on that one. But yeah, it's not much to do with the strategy.
No, so with no opportunity of strategy, and with these guys going a lot slower with the wet, you can see why it's a very technically demanding scenario to race in. We've got a yellow flag. Is that Cowtail? No, it's gone green again, so clearly nothing to make a note. Whilst we've been talking though, we have seen a lot more penalties popping up. Jer's moved on to 6 seconds. Steinmine has joined in the party with 3. Superman's up to 9. Cowtail's up to 15 now. And especially being 22, 23 seconds off the pack, he's going to need a safety car and a miracle. Or we're going to see him spin into the final corner. And he jinks round into the pits.
And he's probably going to retire at this point.
Yeah, I imagine.
Maybe he's a fighter.
There we go. No. Maybe he's a fighter. No, he's not a fighter. I'm sure he is a fighter, but to be honest, I would be surprised if anyone continued racing in that situation.
I would retire as well. So.
As we see, interestingly, these drivers not really gaining much speed on the home straight. Superman looking to try and gain on Jesse as Cowtail's AI comes out the pits. No idea why.
Yeah.
Superman, Jesse covers the inside. Superman tries to go through on the outside, doesn't quite have the closing speed, tries to switch back, moving into turn 2 and turn 3. A battle of who gets a better exit. Superman does get a good exit. Moves in behind Jesse. Will he get the slipstream? He does a little bit, but unfortunately that second DRS zone just not long enough. He does try and go around the outside, which moves into the inside for the next turn. Jesse goes a little bit wide. Superman still fighting. Keeping it clean, just about. Superman now fighting back. Oh, these two guys on the edge of causing a collision, but keeping it clean. And for now, Superman moves up into 9th position.
Yeah.
And Jesse gets 3 seconds, and Jesse's out the race.
That's safety car? Oh, he's in the middle of the track. So.
That is a safety car.
It's a safety car.
Wow.
Okay, some action.
Yeah.
Some action.
And I was right on board with him. That, I mean, I want to say that was intentional, but it was not a complete accident. Yeah, I was on board with Jesse when he spun. So apologies, Jesse, if that jinxed it, or if you could feel my presence watching on you and giving you the extra pressure. An oh dear and an F in the chat, yes. Now, interestingly, let's move off of penalties and on to tyres. and have a look as we have
Oh, Inters.
4 inters for these guys. So this changes everything, as we've got Jer and Steinmine haven't gone through.
Oh.
Darluto gets a second drive through for speeding under
I mean,
the safety
just
car.
retire at this point.
Well, I mean, he's not last, which is the crazy thing.
Well, he'll be last.
Yeah, true. But with the safety car, he's going to be right behind the pack. So,
Yeah, but he can't serve the drive-through in the safety car.
oh yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, unlucky Darluto. Interestingly, though, we've got 4 inters, but Boaz, T Mike, Superman, Bronco, Bass, BNB Levy, Darluto have all pitted onto fresh, wet tyres. I wonder, is that going to be the correct decision? We've got Grak in the chat with a yes in full caps. As much as I completely understand Grak, shouldn't you be racing?
I think he's just gone AI and went like, oh, yes, safety car.
Grak the multitasker in the chat and in the race.
Yeah, and Steinmann's not in the pits.
No, Jer has pitted for fresh inters. Steinmine has stayed out. Very interesting. Darluto has left the session. I mean, I understand. And he's left. Oh, he is driving. Don't know how the stewards are going to think of that, retiring whilst driving. Definitely want to... We'll put a pin on that one, Tamba, if we both mentally try and make a note of that. But Steinmine has caught up with the safety car now, currently coming through into the second sector, so the drivers... Oh, Darluto's joined.
I think he just had an internet issue.
He might have just had an internet issue, yes. Hopefully he can rejoin.
Has switched opinions and just went to the inters.
He has. Grak is on the inters as well. Yes. Jesper asking if Darluto disconnected. I assume he did. As he didn't retire, he just left the session, which suggests there might have been some sort of internet issue there. Fingers crossed he's all good and he's able to race. And we're getting more pit stops here, so yeah, we're getting more inters. Baz is on inters. I think he might have seen... I wonder if these drivers have worked out from driving on the wet that it's getting a bit too dry, or if they've seen some of the other drivers on the inters and decided as a result that's the best move. I mean, it does look like it's... The rain is very light now.
Yeah, and the racing line is getting drier as well.
The racing line is getting drier. Now, we still do have puddles, so I'm inclined to think, unless the sun starts beaming out now, we're still going to probably be on inters for the whole race.
Yeah.
But these inters will be able to make the whole race, so this is a crucial time to get it right, as you will not have another bite of the cherry unless we get another safety car. You won't get another chance for a pit stop.
Yeah. But we may get a safety car. That's what you never know.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe I can jump on board with someone else and jinx them into spinning. So, I mean, the main highlight has to be said then. The only one not to pit is Steinmine, who, it's not as if he's taken full advantage of this. He was in second place at the time when the safety car came out. So, what do you think is going through his head right now?
I mean, not too sure, to be honest. Like, if you're P2 and you're on 15 lap old wets, is this maybe thinking I can go the whole race, but you're gonna get like absolutely messed in the start of the race if it goes to inters, or if it is inters. So I'm not really sure.
Well, I mean, if the rain starts to pick up again, it might be a stroke of genius.
Yeah, fair enough.
But we'll have to wait and see. Yes, Adri giving us some words of wisdom, suggesting if there's the puddles are a good indicator for whether it's wet or medium. Not wet or medium, that's a very big change. Wet or into tyres. Does look like, on the driving line there is not a single puddle. And yes, that is the
Yeah.
correct word, Adri. Don't worry. Absolutely smashing it.
Yeah, and penalties are fading as well. So.
Yes. So, I mean, the crucial moment will be on this safety car restart, as we do have such a long straight, whether Jer gets a restart of a lifetime and gets the move done straight away. That will be our indicator as to who has made the correct decision.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Collision. Well, how did
Ooh.
T-Mac get a collision with Superham?
I don't know. And Superman's the one that's lost his front wing. Team Mike doesn't look to have any damage, so I'm not sure what's happened there. But Team Mike has got the penalty, and Superman's not got the front wing. So there's an eye on the penalties. Just a quick update: Steinmine, Jet, and Capital on 6 seconds. Team Mike on 5. As a result of that contact, the stewards might be having a look at that at the end of the race. Superman with 9 seconds. Darluto still with that drive through, which he'll need to serve on green flag conditions. Grack with 3 seconds, and Levy on 6.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll get the safety car in this lap as BNB Levy joins the pack, which are now all bunched together. Jesper suggesting that Calirob might be without a front wing. He is. Good spot, Jesper. Thank you for that. So Calirob is...
What? Oh.
I'm not sure why.
Oh.
I don't know. I didn't catch that.
I
And
think there may be a collision.
Darluto overtook Super Haman under safety car conditions as well.
And safety cars in this lap as well.
And Darluto doesn't have a helmet.
Yeah.
He's staring right down the barrel.
Yeah.
And yes,
I mean, Calirob is pretty messed at this moment.
So safety car in this lap. Steinmine bunching the pack up. I mean, he hasn't got much of a straight to work with. The start line is right at the beginning, so he is going very slow. When does he launch? He launches through the final corner. Does he get a good start compared to Jer? We will see. We'll jump on board now with Jer. Green light. The race has restarted. Looks like Calirob has jumped into the pits with the lack of front wing. Jer is catching Steinmine, but not a crazy amount, which tells us we are right on the cusp between conditions, which is a very interesting state to be in. Calirob now down into 14th. Superman also pitting, and Darluto serving that drive-through. Those three will be way off the pack, unfortunately for them.
Yeah, the inters look a bit slippery.
They do look a bit slippery. I guess if it is right on that cusp between conditions, Inter's the smarter decision. If it is drying up, I guess it's all about what the changing conditions are, whether it gets wetter or it gets drier.
Yeah.
We'll keep an eye on the penalties for these drivers, though, as we are likely to see plenty more. I mean, it has to say, fair play to the current drivers without a penalty. That is very impressive. Mexico by itself is a tricky track to keep between the white lines, so to do it in the wet conditions is very impressive. But as it stands, no huge changes in the order since that restart. Steinmine still with the lead and still with those wet tyres he started the race on. We'll keep an eye on Jer just to see if he's able to get it done this time. But Jer still in second, Capilot still in third, Fruitful in fourth, and Kaus is still in fifth. And once again, Jer doesn't get a better exit than Steinmine. He is gaining through the straight, through a bit of the slipstream in front of him, but not a crazy amount.
He may use a bit of DRS. You can watch. Now Steinman is having.
He's still got about a third of his DRS. Jer's got just over half. Super Haman gets 2 more 3-second penalties. Is that because he
is in the pits, I think.
He is in the pits. It looks like he's lost his front wing again.
Well, nice. Yeah, he's in the pits now.
There we go. Not sure what happened there. As it looks...
retirement as well.
Yeah, there we go. Superman does retire, and we are down to 13 cars. Whilst we were talking there, Boaz has moved up into 7th ahead of Bronco. Haas having a good race so far. T-Mike in 6th, Bronco in 8th. Darluto joins with another 3 seconds. Now takes the lead on the penalty front. As Grack looks to move down the inside of Bronco. Does get the move done, has a bit more traction, and interestingly, Baz as well. And those two drivers on the inters as opposed to Bronco on the wets. So we'll jump back on board with Jer now, see if he's in a better situation. Baz gets a 3 seconds, joins the penalty club. Jer this time does seem to be closing a bit quicker, is a bit closer, but not enough to get a move done into turn 1.
Yeah, and Steinman is crucially low on ERS as well.
He is. Whereas Jer is managing to keep it high and going into out of turn 3 there. Jer does get the better exit this time. Steinman looks to defend on the inside. Jer trying to go through the outside. Steinman breaks a little bit later. As a result, goes deep, and Jer now tries to switch around. He will have the outside. Going into the next corner, Steinman does push into the edge of the track, but he's able to keep it in line. Stein will therefore have the inside, but Jer will have more track to work with as the drivers go side by side now, coming into the first of the S's, and Jer looks like he might have got the move done. He does, as these drivers drift through the S's. Wow. It's hard to say how much that move was the tyres though, but as Steinman looks to fight back, does have a bit of pace, but not enough to go through. As Fruitful looks to drive down the inside of Capelot, pushes him a little bit off track, but Capelot is able to keep hold of the position for now. Steinman will look to try and set himself up into turn 1. We're getting some action, Tamba.
Yeah, and that allowed Calcis as well to close up to the pack with all the fighting. So we got a 5-way fight to the... Oh, Steinman's in the pits.
Steinman's in the pits.
Yeah,
wow.
He probably figured that the impulse are faster this time.
And Fruitful looks to be going down the outside of Capelot. Capelot defends the inside, forcing Fruitful around the outside. But Fruitful will have the inside of turn 2, and he is ahead, and he does get the move done. And we are in a McLaren 1-2 and a Williams 3-4.
Yeah.
We love to see it. Things we love to see. Yeah. 2 Williams at the front of the grid.
Things you love to see.
things I love to see. I mean, I'm not going to go as far as to say things I love to see an AlphaTauri at the back of the grid, but a lesser man would say that, but I'm not saying it. I just want to point...
Things I love to see is AlphaTauri not retired, at least.
Yes, that is a good point. Darluto, to be fair to him, has had, 3 drive-throughs? 2 drive-throughs? He's got 9 seconds of penalties, and he is fighting on. He is a strong man devoted to the cause, and fair play to him.
Yeah. So, we got some action. Probably going to be fighting the 2 McLarens and the 2 Williams.
Yes, and now with Steinman going into the pits for the, I assume, Inters. We'll have a quick check. Yes, he is now into the Inters, meaning that we only have the 2 Haas are the only 2 drivers remaining on the wets, T-Mike and Bronco. Everyone else on the Inters, but Steinman now rejoining in 10th position, which is not good. What it also does mean is that Jer now has a bit of a gap. The front 4 all about a second from each other. As T-Mike and Boaz fight it out going into turn 1. Boaz gets the move down on the straight, moves up into 5th, and Steinman overtaking Bronco, who has gone into the pits for the Inters. So it's just T-Mike now on those hard tyres. Wet tyres, not hard tyres. Wet tyres. You know what I mean.
Yeah. Wet tyre is a harder tyre to drive on.
Yes.
That's what I mean.
That's what I mean. Thank you for that save.
Okay.
So we'll keep an eye on Baz then. One of the title challengers. Currently in 7th. And currently sitting behind the only wet tyre driver in T-Mike. And we'll just have a look, as he does look to be gaining through the S's. I imagine now the grip is of a significant advantage. But whether T-Mike feels it necessary, we will have a see.
He is keeping pace to a certain extent, so... But I feel like he has to pit at a point in time, either way, so...
He's not
Yeah,
pitting
big
now.
L to the ones on the wets at the moment.
I mean, I guess it's a matter of, as it looks like Baz is got the closing speed and looks like he'll get the overtake done. Team Mike looks to defend on the inside. Baz follows him for the slipstream, then shoots around the outside. Oh, a bit of contact there, but Baz does get the move done and moves up into 6th. I guess the question then is, Tamba, if you do pit for the inters, you obviously lose so many positions. Will you lose more stop positions by? Oh, is that Grak that spun?
Yeah, I think he just lost the rear and tried to save it and just had to slow down.
Ooh, not good news for the Red Bulls. Adri, if you're still watching, look away again. I guess it's something you have to evaluate when you're pitting, whether you will lose more positions by pitting or by staying out on the lesser tyre. I mean, if you were Team Mike, would you pit?
Yeah, I would probably just pit. I mean, like, you can... Well, maybe, you can gamble on the safety car, and if you get a safety car, that's a godsend. But like, if you don't get a safety car, then your race is pretty much done. But if you pit, then your race is also pretty much done. So he's kind of in a bad situation either way. But it looks like he's slowing down now as well. So I may just pit.
As
What a
Baz,
conclusion.
what a conclusion, yes. Essentially, pit. That's what you're telling Team Mike.
Yeah.
If you're listening,
Yeah,
Team
just
Mike, just pit. Just
Yeah,
pit.
just pit.
As Baz with the fastest lap and currently the only driver within a second of the car in front. Boaz and the AlphaTauri in 5th. Has the green Aston sniffing up behind him. Baz looks like if he gets a good exit, won't be close enough now. But hopefully if he's able to stay close to the S's, will look to set himself up for the next lap. It looks like, Temba, we're falling into a bit of a rut with all of these drivers numerous seconds away from each other.
Yeah, not that close. Maybe Bass is the closest one at the moment.
Yeah,
Bass and Boas.
keeping an eye on Baz, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Any important notes do you think it's worth saying at this stage? Obviously, as a driver, by this stage, you're probably falling into a bit of a rhythm, you know, just trying to keep it tidy, keep it clean, letting the race happen as it happens. Is there anything do you think these drivers can do to try and force an issue?
Well, they can be a bit more aggressive and try and be more aggressive in the throttle. If you're kind of losing time, you may be like, "Oh, I need to throttle further," or maybe brake later, and then just lose more time. So that much to do.
Yeah, it is very tricky, you know. It can also be hard, I guess, not knowing the conditions of the race in terms of what the situation is too far ahead of you, too far behind you. You know, these drivers will only know the 2 cars ahead and the 2 cars behind them, so it can be quite tricky to make those long-form strategic decisions. We're still on board with Baz. Again, still the only driver close as Boaz lets him through, which is interesting.
That's maybe just didn't want to lose time. And
Yeah.
maybe that's good.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Maybe he feels like Bass would get him eventually, and by defending, he's just going to lose more and more time. Interesting. Is that something you would have thought about if you were Bass?
No, because I'm competitive.
Yeah, that was a stupid question, wasn't it? Of course you can. Okay.
I would defy the living shit out of Bass at the time. So, yeah, just, move, man. Yeah.
Wow, so
But, I think maybe he thinks that his race is at another point in time where he just wants to finish. Don't get entangled with some driver and just lose the whole car. Oh,
yes, it's Darluto. Darluto has lost the front wing and has spun. Yeah, he gets a penalty plus 2 more warnings during that spin, which is just insult into injury.
Well,
It's a virtual
now
safety
we'll
car as
see
well.
if he's a fighter or not.
Yeah. God, if he
Are
stays
you a
on from
fighter?
this, wow. If he stays on from this, then I might have to applaud him.
Yeah, let's see.
Let's see. He hasn't retired yet. As the green light goes, and these drivers jump back.
Oh.
No.
Look at that cam, though. That's a great cam.
And he continues on.
He continues.
God, I'm a man of my
Still not
words.
mapped.
I'm a man of my words. Darluto,
Yeah.
you are a bigger man than I am. As
Well, I wouldn't continue at this point either.
No,
So
no, I
excuse.
don't think I would have either. And he's probably going to be getting blue flags soon.
Yeah.
Closing in behind him. I mean, it is worth noting, Darluto is a tier 1 driver, so this is effectively practice for him. Although, if we get a dry race in tier 1, in however long, in about half an hour's time, then is it really that much of a practice? You know, very different conditions.
Yeah, but if it rains, he's in a very good spot. So.
Yes. But we are on board with... we'll jump on board with Baz, actually. He is slowly catching on Kaus's. The Williams currently in 4th position. I mean, Kaus is in a very good position at the moment. He's got ahead of him Jer on 6 seconds, Fruitful 3 seconds of penalty, Capelot on 6 seconds. I think he knows, you know, he won't be able to see Jer's penalties or his time, but he knows the 2 penalties in front of him. I think from his perspective, he's thinking, if I just keep this clean, I might get overtaken by Baz, but if I can stay penaltyless, I might cash in big time at the end of the race.
Yeah. He may have a podium in bound if he keeps inside the 3 seconds of...
I mean, as it
Baz.
stands, he is currently 2nd after penalties. So, yeah, even behind Baz, he'll be in 3rd. So, we'll jump through, and I mean, yeah, Capelot is jumping down to, what's that, 6th position? With penalties as it stands, which is not fun. I mean, I don't know about you, it's one of the best feelings in the world when you're coming towards the end of the race and every driver around you has got some form of penalty and you haven't. It's just, it feels so good.
Yeah, it is a feeling that I haven't had the taste of in a very, very long time. But yeah, usually the one getting the penalty but having the pace, so...
Mexico is your opportunity. I mean, we are likely to see a lot of penalties, especially as we go down the tiers. So,
Baz with another one.
Baz with 6 seconds. We'll keep an eye on it then. What I might have a look at actually is how many warnings Kaus's has got. Let's have a look. Ooh, let's have a look. So, let's see. How many pet warnings, if any, has Kaus's got? Let's go through. He doesn't look like he hasn't had one for a while. It is worth noting. Has he got any? Wow, I don't know if he's got any warnings.
What?
Kaus has he got any warnings?
Yeah, he got 2.
Has he got 2?
Yeah, he got 2.
When did he get 2?
1 in the first lap and 1 in the 8th.
Ah, I see. Well, so in that case, that's a horrifying position to be in because he's going to be very aware that he's 1 warning away from 3 seconds. So I take it back. I'd hate to be in his position. That'd be incredibly nerve-wracking. Whilst we've been talking...
Boas, do you have any warnings?
Boas is not a single warning.
No, he's got 1 warning.
Wow.
Oh, it's the penalty, dude. He just
That is a
keeps
clean
on
drive.
going. Yeah. Well, he did the same in the USA, so.
Yeah, true. He's a very clean driver. Whilst we've been talking, Steinmeier moves up into 8th position. He has got 12 seconds, however, so that's going to massively impact his final race. It was looking so good for Steinmeier when he was in the lead, as Jer, who is in the lead, takes the fastest lap. We've also got Bauer still in
probably making a
6th.
move at the moment.
Yes, we are on board with Baz. Closing speed is huge, and looks like he will get the move done before we get to turn 1. Kaussis is fighting the last of the late breakers and gets that move finished. And that is Baz up to 4th, but Kaussis in 5th, still the highest driver without a penalty, as it looks like Steinmeier has spun. I think he was in a fight there with Grack, and he has spun, but he's still got his front wing, so hopefully that won't impact him too much as it stands. Well, last week, Tambar, we had a dramatic finale with the final positions going all over the place as a result of the penalties. I think you might need to get your calculator up again. And that is Gauss is joining the 3 seconds crew. Oh, he's going to be absolutely livid with himself. But, I mean, it's great news for Boaz. Now the only driver on the grid without a penalty and with a warning still to his name.
Yeah.
So
Katzes is still in 4th, technically.
So
Boaz is.
Well, let's have a rundown then. What is the top 6, as it stands with penalties added?
So Boaz is moving up to 6th? No, 4th.
So we've got Fruitful is first. Then we've got Jer second. We've got Capelot third, I guess. We've then got Kaus's fourth. Oh no, or would Boaz go up to third?
Boaz will go to 4th, and then Kaus is 5th and Baz 6th.
Well, no, because if you think Baz is it says between Capelot and Baz is 3 seconds, and then an additional second to Kaus's, so that's 4, and then 2 seconds to Boaz, that's 6. So he's about 6 seconds behind Capelot.
Oh yeah.
So Baz might be on for a podium. So currently it goes Fruitful, Jer, Boaz, Capelot, Kaus's, and then Baz in 6th.
Yeah.
Wow. And once again, he has no idea, Boaz. He doesn't know how far away Capelot is, so he has no idea that he's currently in for a podium.
Yeah.
Just like USA. I mean, if it happens again, we're gonna need the same shouting response like we did.
I mean, he's 1/10 away from being third at the moment.
Yeah, he's in with a shout if he can close that gap. It looks like Steinmeier as well, just behind them, has moved up into 8th position, overtaking T Mike, who in turn is being attacked by Caddy Rob, who moves down the inside, gets something done before turn 1. Will T Mike look to fight back? No, he does not have the grip, and I mean, I think those wet tyres, I think you're probably right, Temba, those wet tyres probably were not the best decision at the end of it.
Yeah, and Calirob is looking for 7th, I think, with less penalties.
Interesting, he will be jumping up to 7th, which is a good haul of points for the Alpines, especially with Kauter already out of the race and in 17th. The thing I find interesting, I mean, it still is raining in Mexico. Even though T-Mike has stayed out in the wets, and we know that probably wasn't the smartest decision, there hasn't been a huge pace difference between the 2 tyres. It has really stayed in that window for a long time.
Yeah, I think it's because the rain isn't that light, and it isn't any sun as well, so it kind of stays in the crossover area. The inters. When you drive on the track, the inters kind of gets better because it gets kind of a drier line than everyone else.
Yeah, I mean that driving line through some of these corners, you can barely see the driving line. It's
Yeah.
the rain is still coming down with enough force that it's not making it easy for these guys. Oh, a Stein mine goes around the outside of turn 1, gets the move done on Grak early, which means Grak is unable to fight back through sector 1. Will he fight back going through the second DRS zone? He uses his DRS, but unfortunately is not close enough to get it done, and Steinmine keeps hold of 7th position as Darluto moves up to, I want to say, a record 27 seconds of penalties.
Yeah, that's a lot of penalties. And 2 drive-thrus as well.
2 drive-thrus. Yeah, that is...
Yeah. Boas is actually closing on Calcis pretty fast. While keeping pace with Capelot. So they're still 1/10 apart.
Yeah, and Bass is closing on Capelot as well.
Yeah, so if Capelot and Bass fights... Oh, Darluto retired. And the bets. Well. Either way, I think if Bass fights with Capelot, Boas would probably get third. But the thing is, Capelot doesn't know that he's fighting for 1 position less down.
Yeah, I mean that's the tricky thing. You only see the 2 drivers ahead of you, so
yeah,
you don't know necessarily where you stand with these penalties. All you know is you keep it clean, you set yourself up for success. But how much success, you only know when you cross that finish line.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're Boaz, do you think there's a chance of a podium there?
I mean, he knows people are having penalties, but I don't know. I don't think he knows how far behind he is. Because Capelot isn't the guy that you know isn't gonna get a penalty. He is kind of a penalty dude. But
yeah.
But I don't think he knows that he's within the 6-second margin.
As it looks like Cali Rob gets past Grak, who just went a little bit wide coming to the end of Sector 2. Caused a bit of a yellow flag, but no damage, it doesn't look like. Baz still within a second of Capelot. I mean, if Baz is able to get this overtake done, then Boaz will definitely know he's in for a podium, because he'll be able to see Capelot's 6 seconds and the distance between them. I mean, Boaz clearly through. Oh, is that Grak having a spin in Sector 3? It is. Has he got damage? Well, clearly he must do, as he's going into the pits. Is he retiring?
I don't see any point retiring.
No, there's no point retiring. You may as well keep the points. Good haul of points, even if you finish 12th.
Well, worth noting, Fruitful is on the limit of getting P1. He's half a tenth. Just about, I think.
He is. He's fallen back a good second or so. That is very interesting.
Yeah.
And a very good point. As we come through to the final lap of the race,
I think Bass is going to be desperate at the moment. He wants that third place.
And especially, I mean, with Kausis falling back as well, Boaz might have fallen down into 4th. I mean, the gap is just over 6 seconds now to Capelot.
Yeah, it's still 1/10. So they're keeping their pace.
They are keeping their pace, so it is all to fight for, but these drivers just don't realise it. Fruitful needs to pick up the pace. He's going to need to gain a good few tenths this lap if he is to get P1. Oh, and that's it over for him.
Yeah.
Gets that extra 3 seconds. And that is his dream of a P1 over. He's not going to be gaining that 3.5 seconds this lap. We'll have a look on board with Baz, who is going to try and close down Capelot. He's not close enough this time and is unlikely to get close enough again. I mean, with the time penalties, an overtake is still a valid overtake on track, as both him and Capelot have 6 seconds. Kausis way outside of the 3 seconds of Baz, is not going to be able to move up any positions, but his pace potentially could cause Boaz to not get a podium today. It's looking more and more likely.
Yeah, Boaz is losing time.
Boaz is losing time, which will mean that we will see Capelot on the podium as it stands. As Jer comes round the final corner with the fastest lap, what a flex, to win the Mexican Grand Prix. Fruitful comes through second. Capelot and Bass are fighting, which could cause issues with the penalties down the line. Capelot will come through to get P3 on the track. Bass P4 on the track. Cowses, will that fighting be enough? We'll move down to P6. Boaz! He does it again!
He's done it again!
He's done it again, Boaz. The king of the P3 with penalties. Wow, they had no idea, but Capelot and Bass's fight at the end on that final corner causes Boaz to get a podium. I mean, Boaz needs to thank Bass for that little fight there, as it meant that Capelot had to defend. As we move down the grid, Kaus is therefore 6th, Cali Rob 7th. Steinmine, what could have been on another day, that P1 could have been his. He finishes today in P8. T-Mike, valid effort on those wet tyres, stays P9. Bronco, the other Haas in P10. B&B Levy, a solid fighting drive, stay through to the end, and we'll pick up good points for the Alfa Romeo in P11. And Grack will close us off, crossing the line in P12. Yeah. Wow, what a race, Temba.
Yeah. Amazing race. Oh, well, it was more exciting than I thought it would. But yeah. Thank you, Destroyer.
Yes, yeah. Just to reference that, a shout out from Destroyer. He's just complimented us. Thank you very much. I mean, it's a pleasure always. But yeah, I mean, Boaz. Absolutely, it came up there, fruitful driver of the day, but we have to give it to Boaz, the king of the P3 with penalties. He's done it again, 2 podiums in a row. He must be loving life. And if you're Sir Capelot, keep him away from Baz so there's no fisticuffs in the post-race room.
I mean, some people have to stop these Dutch people. I mean,
yeah, it's a 1-2-3 for the Netherlands once again. But Tamba, why don't you take us through the final grid order one more time now that the penalties and the laps are through?
Yeah, so we have Jer, Fruitful, and Boaz on the podium, as you probably saw. We got the home driver, Sir Capelot, in 4th. Then we got Bass in 5th and Cassis in 6th. Calirob in 7th. We got Steinmine in 8th. T-Mike in 9th. Bronco rounding out the top 10. Then we got B&B Levy, Grack, which is Finnish for some reason. Carludo in 13th, 4 laps behind everyone else. We got Superhaman, who DNF'd, and the rest of them DNF'd as well. We got Rusty, Jesse, Calturl, the current day. So yeah, Boaz with the driver of the day as well.
Indeed, and I believe that race has a massive impact at the top of the standings, with Adju not racing today, Baz down in 5th, Jet profits big time.
Yeah, and Fruitful, I think Fruitful jumps Adri.
Fruitful jumps Adri into 3rd position. So, 2 races left to go. Next week we're in Canada. Week after that we're in Brazil to finish it off. Who will win the Premier Tier of PRL? Stick with us next week and we will find out how that unfolds. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Cheryl Shaft.
And I've been Tambar.
I didn't tell you that I was going to do that, but I thought I'd let you. I'd leave it for you. I should probably let you know next time. But with all that being said, thank you very much for joining us. And stay tuned for Tier 1 coming in about 20 minutes' time. But if not, we'll see you next week in Canada for PRL Premier Tier. Good night.